From the Middle is a founding member of the Odd Pods Media Network. Hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 108 of From the Middle. It's Corey here. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle of America, in the middle chapters of our lives with a point of view that's somewhere in the middle. In this week's episode, we talk about some of our health tips. That's funny. Kendall gives us some updates on his bird situation, and we talk about unspoken rules. What are some of the things in life that should just go without saying? And finally, Corey will wrap up, that's myself, with a few recommendations. Enjoy!
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
From the Middle after dark over here.
Hey, everybody. Yeah. Nothing. It's good to be here. It's good to talk to you guys. But to be here and you guys are there. We're doing another one of these things where we're like not with each other. But that's only because this is the way we do it sometimes. But we do have a studio available. Anyway, I'm rambling. How are you guys doing today?
Doing really well. Sunburned, feeling great. Spent way too much outside. Way too much time outside without sunscreen. Forgot that I am bald and I require sunscreen and or a hat. And I was just having an adult beverage or two or three by the pool and was like, ow, that evening. So other than that, great.
So speaking of hats, you have that Life Rips hat on.
Life rips, man, which is a good thing. Rips is a good thing.
So it's that. Do you just like the slogan, or is that something that I'm not aware of?
That's a Crystalia thing, and I'm still supporting Crystalia through it all. He's one of my favorite comedians, and I think he was wrongfully accused. If you don't know the details, just don't worry about it. So that's one of his sayings.
Yeah, that is an interesting situation. It's kind of one of those, it's hard to choose sides kinds of things. That's kind of how I feel like that about a lot of people and politicians. It's like, okay, well, maybe that isn't really a thing, but it still kind of proves that you're a little icky.
Yeah.
Maybe not a criminal, but icky. That's all.
Yes. That's a good way to say it. Moving on. So it just came in the mail and I thought I'd wear it. It's funny because you know how I like to have a rationale for things.
Yeah.
Typically when I choose a hat for the podcast, like there's a rhyme or reason. It's like, oh, that thing happened that week, so I'm going to wear this hat. And then I think I'll remember years from now when I go back and maybe catch one of these episodes, just to reminisce or whatever. And I'll go, oh, that's because that thing happened that week, or a little nod to something. It's my own little game I play with myself.
And people can't see this on the recording, but his name says Corey D'Elia on it. And he's wearing like a V-neck undershirt as his outer shirt. So that sticks.
Oh, how are you guys doing? Please, for the love of God, take the spotlight off me.
Man, I'm full of pizza and oatmeal cream pies. I'm in a good place. I tell you what. I do have a super quick, kind of funny story. Maybe it's scary. I don't know. Kind of funny story. My 3-year-old was sitting we have this little table and set of chairs in our living room. She was coloring today, and we asked her what she was doing, and she just said, just thinking about life. So I don't know what kind of flashes of brilliance are going through a 3-year-old's mind when they're thinking about life. But
did you tiptoe out of the room?
Yeah, basically. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go back to work. Take my coffee mug upstairs.
That's good, adorable,
man. I have to say, so I've picked up a new podcast, and I think
we've maybe discussed this.
Okay, I'll let that one simmer for a minute.
Sorry.
It's been real, man. We had 107 good episodes.
Well, you could subtract a couple.
95 of them were good, I think.
Yeah.
We've had 36 decent episodes.
I started listening and enjoying as a fan a new podcast. And I think we've discussed it before that there's basically two kinds of podcasts. There's the celebrity podcasts that are almost instantly popular and get thousands of reviews. And then there's every other indie podcast, like forever, that's out there. We're in the latter group, but I was sucked into kind of a celebrity podcast. And I don't know if you guys have heard of it yet. It's called The Friendship Onion. Anything?
I know nothing about this.
Okay, so this will be we don't get to talk Lord of the Rings enough, and this fulfills that hole in my life. So Billy Boyd, the actor, and Dominic Monaghan, or Dom Monaghan, another actor, played Merry and Pippin in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, and they have it's literally everybody talk about whatever podcast, just like ours, and like every other one, but because they're celebrities, they can do it. And anytime things slow down, they can pull out a Lord of the Rings story and just talk about being on the cast or a thing that happened while filming or things they enjoyed while they were in New Zealand. Or so they it's great. So they're only 5 episodes in, and I would say you honestly, for anybody that might want to check it out, if you're into the Lord of the Rings films and you like the behind the scenes, I've talked in the past how rich the behind the scenes features are for those films, you'll like it. Anybody else, you'd have to really like those two actors to get into it, but it's a ton of fun. The intro song, even if you don't watch a whole episode, go listen to the intro song, because it's this like quirky, campy, like type intro, just totally silly intro. And yeah, that's it. And so they've done like 5 episodes, and this is a podcast that begs to be watched, because Dom and Billy Boyd, they're so animated as they're talking about anything that I've been watching it on YouTube, because for me it's super enjoyable. And if you're on YouTube, you're seeing they just did a couple back-to-back episodes with Elijah Wood, and so it's just a lot of fun. Like they just, they have funny stories, and because they're celebrities and they've done, had gigs across the world, they've always got kind of unique stories about things they've done and seen and whatever. So I've been sucked into another celebrity podcast. Yeah, if it looks like on Apple Podcasts already have 2.3 thousand 5-star reviews. So that's the beauty of being a celebrity.
No kidding.
They've got like 1 million different sponsors already in like episodes 3, 4, and 5. That they're plugging like 8 different new companies, every episode. So it's good for them. But it's a very silly, fun show. They have a segment where they quote eat the world, and it's literally just them trying a new food that they've never tried from somewhere around the world. So it's great. It's silly.
They've been staring at our notes.
Yeah, it's silly and it's stupid, and they can get away with it because of who they are. And it's fun.
They've gotten away with having the same guest 2 weeks in a row. That's bold.
Yeah, only on episodes 3 and 4, or like 2 and 3, by the way, or whatever it is. Yeah,
well, we've got to check that out. That sounds fantastic. And I wonder if Dom talks about Lost at all. That would be interesting.
I'm sure. And people, they of course do voicemails and emails where people can chime in. And people are asking them about other things like, hey, you went to when Viggo Mortensen was filming this thing, you guys, it came out that you were on set with Viggo. How did that happen? Hey, Billy, you sang a song for the Hobbit trilogy that was at the end credits. How did that come about? And so people will ask about all kinds of stuff. But if you like Lord of the Rings, it's a fun one. It almost feels like Office Ladies, where if you love something enough, it's fun to hear stories kind of behind the scenes of the thing, and that's their thing. But I would definitely watch it. They're animated enough, and they're so polite. And they just told a story. I was listening to episode the second part of Elijah Wood's episode. the first time they've ever actually had any kind of a fight, because Dom and Billy are basically a couple, and they're not, but they're such good buddies that they basically are.
Yeah.
And it was over them playing League of Legends online together. And how Billy's bad at it. So anyways, if you're into that kind of thing in Lord of the Rings, go check out the Friendship Onion.
That's awesome. Kendall, how about you, man? How are you doing? What's new with you?
Oh man, so I'm in a phase right now that everybody's been through, which is like I'm in the planning stages. This is the night before that I start working out again and dieting and whole 9 yards. Yeah, it's something that I do about semi-annually. Get started on something and then eventually I fail at it and drop it, but we'll see how it goes. Tomorrow I've lost 60 pounds before in the matter of like months, and like over the course of like 5-6 months. That's the quickest I've ever lost weight. I need to do that again, and I need to stick with it and whatnot. And so I got some hand weights. I don't even know what they're called now. It's skipping my mind. Dumbbells for Father's Day. So I've had those now for about a week, and I've actually had a Smith machine in our basement for the past couple of years. A Smith machine.
Yeah, what's that?
It's something that you find at a gym. Planet Fitness is known for their Smith machines because they don't do free weights. It's a machine that basically allows you to safely do things like squats with a barbell, or like bench presses and that kind of thing by yourself, because the bar itself is attached to a track and it's on a rack, and you can set it up so that you safely can do that without a spotter and not die. So anyway, I have one of those in my basement, and we just recently, also a Father's Day gift for me from my family, and this is the single best gift I think I've ever received. Unbeknownst to me, they cleaned up our basement, which is where all the exercise equipment and stuff is. And so, and that was not a small task. Like, we had a flood in our basement a couple of years ago now or so. And so our basement was all torn apart because of that. And then last year during COVID, we got the basement kind of finished up and refloored and walls repaired and things. And so the basement has been a hell of a mess since then. And my wife and our 3 young children cleaned it up without me knowing the week before Father's Day. And and so I recently got the gym set back up down there, and I'm going to start using it. And I told the kids tonight before they went to bed that I asked them if they want to work out with me in the basement tomorrow morning, and they said yes. And I'm like, okay, well, you need to make sure that Daddy gets out of bed early and goes to the basement to work out. You guys need to do that for me. So we'll see. I'm going to try to use my kids as accountability partners. People who I can buy off with candy are going to be my accountability partners.
What time is early for you? What time would be an early wake up to go?
An early wake up would be about 6:30. My alarm goes off every day at 7. That's a carryover from the school year. I'm usually out of bed by about 8. So early would be.
Are you going to do like Mark Wahlberg or early? Like, it's 4:30 a.m.?
No, I do that on Sundays. I wake up at 4:30 on Sunday mornings every week. But that would be that's a little much for me to do that every day. I could legitimately do 6:30, 7 o'clock easy.
Yeah, I just imagine Mark Wahlberg goes to bed at like 5 o'clock. Like,
he does. He also goes to bed really early.
Early bird dinner, and then he's just in bed by 5:30.
Him and Kevin Hart and some other guys were doing that on Instagram, and it was like a contest to see who could wake up earlier to start sweating. So I'm really, you bring up an interesting topic, Kendall, because we're 3 larger guys, and living a long-term sustainable, healthy lifestyle doesn't come naturally to any of us. Each of us have lost big chunks of weight in our past and had success with either a diet or a workout regimen. What works best for you? Like, because I got on the elliptical last week, one morning. um, but it was like an effort to do the same thing, like kickstart yourself into like, so what works best? Do you find that if you have like a little reward system or a cheat day with food, or like for me, and I'll share mine, I don't like waking up early so much that if I do wake up early and work out, I will eat better that day because I'm like, I'm not going to waste that early morning workout by making bad food decisions. Like I hate waking up early so much that in and of itself will make me disciplined for the rest of the day in my water consumption and my portion control and like, cutting out breads and sugars. So what works well for you guys?
Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, I have to already be in a place where I'm like wanting to do that. You almost have to wait until that like mental cycle comes back around where you're like, okay, I'm actually feeling motivated again. I want to do something different. And then it's like none of the fad stuff ever seems appealing or like it'll work. It's just like calories in, calories out, man. Like just eat normalish foods, try to cut out the stuff that's obviously bad, and smaller portions and more water. And it always feels like it's the most obvious, but that's the thing that works. And then, it's there. I think there's a couple supplements out there and stuff that can help, but I think it's mostly just try to eat better food, try to eat less food, try to drink more water. It's not exciting, and sometimes it's hard to be motivated to do that, but that always feels like the thing that works the best.
So not for necessarily for results, you're just talking about for consistency and discipline.
Well, it is ultimately it is for results too. When I do that and just stick to that better, like I'm going to still have pizza, but I'm just going to eat 2 slices, not 4. And then I'm going to eat a couple handfuls of carrots,
maybe throughout the day, you like account for the fact that you're planning to have pizza.
Yeah. I have 1 sandwich or 1 turkey wrap instead of 2 at lunch because I'm going to have pizza later. It's just that it's not exciting, but it feels like that's what works the best for. Not only is it's what's sustainable, but what actually helps me get results. But anytime it's where it's like, here's the thing, you got to only eat what ancient cavemen ate. And then if you do that and only eat mastodon and you only eat raw berries for 3 weeks, no, and then it's like there's a whole other group that's like, you can eat as much deli meat as you want, salami and cheese and pepperoni, just don't have pasta and you'll be fine. None of that stuff ever seems to work or make sense. If it doesn't make sense, I'm not going to do it. And if people have results with those things, that's fine. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So I've done a few things, like 3 things in my past that I would point to say, hey, that worked. But I mean, did they really? Because ultimately I didn't stick with any of them to a point that I got down to what people would consider a normal, healthy weight. But one of those things was I worked out a lot. I did a lot of strength training, and I ate better, but I was also trying to get like into that world. So like I was doing protein shakes and protein bars, and using those things as meal replacements. And then I was eating dinner usually like normal, but other than that, like my calorie intake the entire rest of the day was done in product form, whether it was a shake or a bar. I lost a lot of weight during that period. And then I did a shake only diet, which is a very low calorie diet, which is a ketosis diet, which is the same idea of low carb, no carb diets. So this uses low carb, but also very low calories to accomplish that same thing. So now your body is burning things other than just calories because you're low calorie, but your body's also in ketosis. So it's kind of like a 2-hit kind of situation. And that's where I lost a lot of weight in a short period of time with that one. But again, stick-to-itiveness just isn't there.
Yeah, that's what
Not
I
for
mean.
me.
Because there's what you would do for maximum results.
Yeah.
And then there's what you would do if, like, they always say, if you go into it thinking it's going to be a short-term thing, you're already doomed to fail. Like, it has to be a quote lifestyle change. Like, I'm making this change for the long haul, whatever it is. Our brother-in-law has had a lot of success with intermittent fasting. Our stepbrother is like super fit, and even he has said, like, it really just comes back to diet. Like, people can work out hardcore and not see much weight loss. But it's calories in, calories out. But yeah, I've always found it intriguing, like what works for some and what works for others. And like those rare instances of people who like really adopt something new and stick with it. It's not just a fad diet or whatever cool trendy thing people are posting about.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck, man.
We'll see.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah.
Best
Thank
of
you.
luck.
And also, speaking of protein, we have a bird now in our house.
Yay! It finally happened.
It happened. So we're about a weekend now with this foster bird. Her name is Mimi. She's a severe macaw. And
no mild macaws in the Ayla house. We only want severe macaws.
Severe macaws. Oh my goodness. Basically, she's got 2 months to straighten out her act, or she's going back.
Really?
So we have this bird for 60 days, at which time then we have to make a decision. And I mean,
right now you're leaning.
Right now, there's stuff that needs. Let me be very clear. We have small children. Mm-hmm. That means something different for us in our context. This bird can't bite. This cannot be a bitey bird. Mm-hmm. It is currently a bitey bird. Parrots do damage. Like I have, just from the other day, I've got, if I can see it, this right here. And it bled for a while, and that was through a shirt. So I was wearing a long sleeve shirt that happened through the shirt. My wife has a couple of bites on her as well. So like parrots do damage when they bite and are uncontrolled.
Bit of a problem child.
Yeah. And that's a problem, because then like we don't want a bird that just like stays in its cage 24/7. But like if you can't pick up and handle a bird to put it back in its cage when it needs to go, then you can't let the bird out. And so we've been trying different tips and tricks. Like we have a tree in one room where we eventually got the bird over there to that tree. And then like we needed to go to bed. And so this bird needed to go back to its cage, and we can't handle the bird yet because it bites us. And, literally took the entire tree over to the cage and then had to bait her into the cage.
So if you've been listening for the last couple of episodes, you know you've known the ongoing saga of the bird orphanage doing its due diligence to make sure that the Ayla home was a safe place for their bird Mimi to go. Did this place that's done all this research not mention anything about the fact that Mimi is a biter? Or is Mimi misbehaving because she's under some duress at a new place?
Well, so the reports that we got was this bird, it's a foster bird, which means that somebody else owned her for 7 years. Mm-hmm. And eventually gave her up. And those reasonings did not include biting. Those reasonings included noise, being too loud. We have not experienced Mimi being too loud at all. So maybe we've not seen what her normal personality was. Now the facility, the gal there did tell us that she has had some problems with the bird biting. But that is often the case, because that is something birds will do when they're under anxiety. and those kinds of things. So it is to be expected. Usually you can expect those kinds of things to clear up within a few days if they're in a decent environment. But we're a weekend. It's still kind of early, but we're a weekend, and we really haven't seen much change. And we've worked with her. We're bird people. This isn't our first bird
rodeo.
But so we've been working with her and trying several different methods, and we've seen very little progress. So we'll see.
Well, keep us posted. I know it's been quite the adventure, and you don't want you don't want it to end, you don't want to take her because you feel pressured because the process was so long, but you've got to watch out for your kids. And if you can't handle the bird, then that's clearly a problem, and you want a good fit for your family. So
exactly. If we didn't have kids, we'd probably just keep the bird and deal with her because someone has to.
Yeah.
And we'd be equipped at that point. But because we have small kids, that just can't happen.
Speaking of worlds that we're learning all about for the first time, and you mentioned it earlier with when you got into the fitness thing and the protein. So I have a motorcycle now, and there are all these aspects of owning a motorcycle that I don't know, like what the proper etiquette is. So, for example, I wear a helmet when I ride because I'm smart and my family makes me. And when you get to a destination, what do you do with your helmet? Do you leave the helmet on the handlebars? Do you put the handle between the front tire and the bike? Or are you that guy that's walking around a public place, restaurant, coffee shop, bank with a helmet in your hand? And so I'm like this rookie, noob, idiot who doesn't know, and you don't want to just ask other bikers necessarily, like, hey man, what do you do with your helmet when you're done? Because you'll get the answer similar to when I was learning about bow hunting for the first time. And I asked my friend Drew, hey man, when it's cold and you're in a tree stand, do you wear a glove like on your dominant hand? Because I'm thinking, won't that mess up, like, if archery is all about consistency and doing the same exact thing every time, won't that mess up all? And he's like, well, when I asked, do I wear a glove? He goes, do you want your hands to get cold? So then I think, well, what's the likelihood that a $300 or $400 motorcycle helmet is just going to get stolen from a place? Which got me into this whole mindset of, like, in cultures, there are like unspoken rules. So like if you go to a country club, people's clubs are just sitting out everywhere. They're sitting out outside. People's trunks are open. They're in the locker rooms. They're at the clubhouse, and nobody messes. Golfers don't mess with another golfer's clubs. And then, because you mentioned, Kendall, that we haven't been talking about Pete and Sebastian lately, I was trying to catch up with their podcast, and they were talking about this very thing, like certain unspoken rules. So I was wondering if you guys had any examples of, like, another one might be you go to a locker room to work out and you see some dress shoes under the bench. Nobody's going to mess with those dress shoes because it's like, it's a locker room. It's like, but then you might say it depends on where that gym is.
Well, yeah, I mean, are there people in that gym who otherwise would steal those shoes if they saw them somewhere else? Somewhere else where they assumed that they belonged, like someone left them there and are coming back for them.
Right.
But because it's in a locker room for some reason, they won't do it. Like, I don't think that's the case.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And Pete and Sebastian brought up a great one that I've wondered about before. You're in a coffee shop. You've planned to sit down and work for a couple hours. So you've got notebooks, you've got your laptop out, you've got your coffee, you're by yourself. Now you have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Your choices are pack up all your stuff just for the bathroom visit. Just take a risk at the Starbucks and go to the bathroom, or ask the person next to you, Hey, do you mind watching my stuff for a second while I just run to the restroom? What do you do? And what are the unspoken rules?
Well, I mean, I think the unspoken rule there is I don't care where you are, don't steal things.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think that's a spoken rule.
That is a spoken rule. Yeah, there's a list somewhere of like at least 9 others.
But I don't trust that rule. Me personally, in that very scenario, something like a computer that I need and use and is expensive to replace, I totally would back up and take with me just to go pee. If I'm in a restaurant and I have like my backpack that I carry with me everywhere, like I've got a few medications in there and things that I can, like my wallet is in my pocket and not in the backpack.
Yeah.
So it's just other stuff that I could relatively easily replace with the help of insurance, right?
Yeah.
And so I totally just leave my backpack behind and come back to it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't if it had a computer in it.
Got it.
That also makes the assumption that the person at the next table isn't the one who would steal it anyways. Just because you asked them to watch your stuff doesn't mean that they wouldn't be the one who would have taken it if you hadn't asked them.
I bet you there's a psychology thing there.
There probably is, where being asked, it's like you're supposed to, if you're ever at gunpoint, you're supposed to humanize yourself by like saying, I'm married, I have 2 children, we go to the beach every year. The more you humanize yourself, the less likely somebody will see you as just another victim or whatever.
Yep.
There might be some sort of like laptop humanization where it's like, oh, this guy's peeing, now I feel bad. Like he didn't just get up to go get a refill of lemonade. Like,
so what I should do is go, hey, will you watch my computer on which I have photos of my children and poems that I've written my wife,
right,
and pictures of my bird, please?
Do you think there's any context to let's call it the Panera conundrum? So do you think there's any context to the Panera conundrum? Let's say you're at your local Starbucks, they just opened, nobody's in there. There's like 2 workers. Do you handle it differently than you're traveling and it's like a Panera right by a busy airport? It's packed. You're not in a city that you normally go to, or maybe it's at night. Don't you feel like there's context? Like your local Panera, it doesn't really matter that it's local or far away other than your own comfort level. But if you're at like a Panera that's near you that you go to frequently, where you feel like the workers might know you or remember you and might maybe keep an eye on your stuff, I feel like there's a lot of context there. They just open, there's only 1 car in the parking lot. You know, I feel like that matters.
It's a great point. Yeah. Do you have any other examples though, like unspoken rule type things?
I don't know if it's rule. I'm thinking about etiquette type stuff. To me, it feels obvious that if you're on a moving thing, it could be an elevator, a plane, a train, whatever. If you're on a moving thing and the thing stops and opens where people would want to get on, the people should be allowed to get off first before people get on that are ready to use the thing. But that's not always the case. If you're on an elevator and you get down to the lobby and you're the one waiting in the lobby, you don't rush on before the people get off the elevator. You wait, you let them exit, then you get on. But that doesn't always happen on like subways or trains or whatever. And that just feels like there's no rules. There's nothing like slapped on the side of a subway train that says, let everyone get off before you get on. But it feels implied, and whether people want to follow it or not is a whole other issue with humanity.
That's a good one. That reminds me of like, should corridors be treated like roadways and you stay to the right side? Yes. Wouldn't that just make everything easier?
That's not a conundrum. That's the answer is just yes.
I think that goes to the whole like pet peeve that we all share of people getting in the way, that like, or just my wife and I were talking about recently about how things would be just so much better if everybody was just kind of self-aware and aware of all the people around them. And like it's it's almost the annoying part isn't necessarily that somebody's in your way on a people mover. The annoying part is that they didn't even stop to think that maybe there might be in somebody's way. Like they didn't even cross their mind. And that for some reason is what gets me.
Yeah, malls and airports are where it's like glaringly obvious. Like, stay to the right. It's unspoken. There's no signs. There's no official preference. And maybe where in the part of the world you grew up in, people drive on the other side of the road. But if you want Auntie Anne's and it's on the other side, then 90-degree crossovers are acceptable. But for the most part, you should stay to the right. And everything would be a lot easier.
I'm thinking of more, and this feels like a great place to take a quick break, hear from one of our friends in the Odd Pods Media Network, and come back, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot of opinions, but that's a great start that we can continue in the second half.
Perfect.
Welcome everybody to the Podeskew Podcast. I am...
Whoa, dude. No. This is our promo, not the show. I'm Rico.
Oh, sorry. I'm CJ, and we're the hosts of the Podeskew Podcast.
We're fans of pretty much anything and everything pop culture, including movies, TV shows, books, video games, comics, music, and of course, Kevin Smith. Now, while we do keep our fingers on the pulse of Silent Bob, he certainly doesn't need our help in promoting him.
You got that right. We do our own thing, with inspiration from the man himself and his mantra of why not. We've got stories about celebrities we've interviewed, theories of our own for certain movies, and we can usually tend to have a great debate about anything.
We also do commentaries on movies. Sometimes we ask our fans what they want to watch with us. So if you love the timbre of our vocal cords and want to watch a movie at the same time, give us a listen.
Stay tuned every Monday. There's always something new. And if you've been good this year, we may even give you a bonus episode from time to time.
So please be good and subscribe to and enjoy Podeskew, founding member of the Odd Pods Media Network.
All right, so we've gotten ourselves into complaining about things, which is where we shine.
Yay!
And
we were just heating up the oven before our little break there. I thought of another one. This feels like an unspoken rule, especially now. Public places are not the place to turn up your mobile device for music or videos or whatever. Like, you can get dollar headphones in the bin near the checkout aisle, like everywhere. You can go get cheap earbuds. They exist everywhere. There's no lack of cheap earbuds. So there's really no good reason for people to be cranking YouTube videos in public for music and to watch clips and TikTok, and like, that's what headphones are for.
Can somebody explain to me the appeal to using speakerphone on your phone, walking around, holding it up to your mouth, using the speakerphone feature? How is that better than holding it up to your ear? Why do people do this?
Well, I will say I use speakerphone a lot at home because honestly, if it's going to be a long conversation, like, I'll get like hair caught in like the tiniest little parts of the trim of the phone, and I'll have my phone up to my head and I'll pull it away and I'll feel it yank a hair out, or like I'll get sweaty face goop on the screen, and then I know I'm just going to have to wipe it down. So like, it is more convenient at home. If I'm at my desk or I'm sitting, I can just like put speakerphone on and set my phone down and talk.
Right.
But
you know what I'm talking about, though, like people walking around in public.
I'm not
using speakerphone.
Yeah, this isn't like the Nextel works. It's also like a beeper, and you're like, bloop, bloop, in the middle of the mall, and you're talking to people back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And again, there's context. If you're walking around a dead mall at like 10:15 in the morning and you want to do that, I don't really care. But it's inevitably always the people, like, it's a huge, like, it's a busy doctor's office, like edge to edge seats are full and somebody's got a YouTube video cranked on their phone or something.
Yeah.
Just, it seems like the unsaid rule. Like, that's what headphones are for. That's why they came with every personal audio device that you bought for 20 years. Plug in a pair of headphones and listen that way.
Yeah, we're definitely getting into another round of pet peeves. This is great. And it all comes back to awareness. A lot of it.
It's being self-aware. Here's here's one. So in our neighborhood, I feel like this is true about a lot of places. But it's not even frowned upon in our neighborhood to leave junk at the bottom of your driveway. And that is your signal to other people that you can have this stuff if you want it.
Yeah.
And so it's not, I mean, we don't even wait till trash day around here. Like if you want to get rid of it, just put it down there and it'll be gone by morning. And so there's definitely an unspoken rule there, where if I have a bookshelf up next to my garage door, don't touch it. As soon as I move it past the halfway point of my driveway, that means you can have it.
Yeah, it's basically like, this is the part of my yard that I don't even try to use or enjoy. I'm going to put crap there. That's where you can come and take it. This part of grass up near my house, that's the part that I use. That's mine. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. That's a perfect example. Here's one. This isn't even one that's a pet peeve, but I think it's unspoken. If somebody hands you their phone for any kind of anything that you need, any sort of function to show you something, you only use it for that singular purpose. You don't browse their device, right? Hey, let me show you this picture of my vacation. They hand you the phone. Here's what you do. You look at it and say, that's awesome. And then you hand it right back. Here's what you don't do. You don't start swiping through their photos. You don't hand the phone back and you've already gone into the messages and you've scrolled back 4 days with mom's texts.
Right.
Like,
hey, are these your kids?
That is a rule that no one should ever have to like break down for you. If they're handing it to you for a singular purpose, you do that thing and you give it back. The end. I don't care. I've got nothing to hide. I really don't care. But even I'm going to get a little fidgety if I expect you to take the 2 to 3 second look at the photo that I'm showing you and give it back. And you've got it for 10 seconds, 20 seconds.
Yeah. Like, are you using
45 seconds? What are you doing on my phone? I think that's unspoken, but feels like a good one.
But on Kendall's about neighborhoods, and I fear that this is going to get this is like, it's becoming another pet peeves episode. But like, we have one street in our neighborhood where people park on both sides, and that leaves just over a car's width to be able to go through, because they should really only park on one side. But we don't have a homeowners association in our neighborhood. For our international friends, that's where neighborhoods have basically rules, and you pay a month for there to be rules. You pay a monthly fee for there to be rules, and things like you can't put just anything anywhere in your yard because we all have to look at it. And we're going to maintain that and keep an eye on that and look out for one another. And yeah, is that basically...
It's a community funded soup Nazi is what it is.
There you go. If we were a part of a neighborhood with a homeowners association, we could complain. And then the boss of that homeowners association would say, we have agreed.
No soup for you.
No soup for you. We have agreed there is no more parking on both sides of the street on Fabro. But if you're going to do it, the unspoken rule is stagger so that my car can more easily weave betwixt all y'all's vehicles. Don't park directly across from another car to make that tight, especially. And the worst is, like, one of the guys in our neighborhood was driving semi for a while, and he would park it at the top of the street right when you turn onto it. And so you can barely see around. There's kids riding bikes. I mean,
come on, Gary.
Drives me insane. Anyway, all right. Here's what I learned about motorcycle helmets.
Okay, yeah.
It depends on the neighborhood. If you're at a biker event and everybody's got the same predicament, just leave them on your bike, because we're all leaving our helmets on the bikes. We respect one another as other bikers. It's fine. But if you're downtown by yourself in a sketch neighborhood and you're the only bike there, you might not want to leave your helmet with your bike. So there you go.
Simple.
If you're worried about it, take it with you. No one's gonna make fun.
Mm.
It's really
Hey,
not that. It's really not that difficult. But
Are
I
you
like to
bold enough
overthink
to?
things.
Are you bold enough to be the guy who wears it inside the mire? Going to
I don't
Kroger
think so.
wearing your helmet?
Maybe replace that. Not have to wear a mask. Just keep
There
the
you
helmet
go.
on.
There you go. What would be really funny is if you get a mask big enough to fit over the front of your helmet.
A helmet painted with a mask on it. That's great.
Hey, I thought of a couple more of our things, but I need to know if there's rules. These aren't ones that I'm
Oh, nice.
as we're
Okay.
thinking about it, because I'm thinking this doesn't feel as clear. So here's one, and you guys can weigh in on it now that you finish your helmet story. If somebody is hosting you at their house, let's say you're staying the night at a friend or a family member's house, it seems like the right thing to do would be to put everything back as much as possible. That feels like the unspoken rule. But is it really just part of hosting that you don't worry about it? Like that's kind of, as the guest, you also aren't always you shouldn't be expected to like clean up everything everywhere. I don't mean, you know, if you spill some food on the ground, don't pick that up. But I mean, like, do you pull everything off the bed, or do you fold all the blankets and stuff again? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of extra things. You might use bathroom commodities. You might use, you might set a couple drink cups in the sink. Are you supposed to hand wash, or, like what's the rule there? What is there?
Interesting. As you're like going through those examples, some of those are things are like, yep, I would do that. Yep, I would do that. Nope, I wouldn't do that.
Right. So what's the difference?
I don't know. For
Yeah,
example, like I would totally make the bed, or like I would put the alarm clock back where it was, or whatever. I would do all of that. I would not do the dishes.
And my example wasn't even all of the dishes. My example was like,
even
cup
my
or
cup.
two.
Like I wouldn't do my cup.
You would
I'd just put it in the
normally
sink.
just go and set that in a sink and just leave
Right.
it. Presumably you think they have a dishwasher. They're just going to pick this up and set it in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
And wash it that way.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go run a load of laundry at somebody else's house with your towels and sheets.
Right. I wouldn't go that far, because you could, if you take this far enough, you could be like, hey, where's your washer and dryer? Wake up in the morning, wash your sheets and towels, and then put them back where they were.
So is the rule just make your bed basically and clean up the bathroom?
Bed. Even though I know that if I was hosting, like I was going to be washing those sheets after they left anyway.
Right. That's what I usually think. And when we've had guests in the past, I'm like, don't make the bed. We're going to wash it all anyways. So just leave it however it is.
So when I think of it that way, when I'm making the bed, like I'm not actually trying to be helpful, because I know that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to look helpful.
Yeah, because I wouldn't strip the bed. I would make it, because it's like you're saying I made the effort to make this as nice as it was when I found it, because that's what we were always taught. Leave things as nice or nicer than you found it, right? So like,
yeah, but we just acknowledged how many things we aren't going to do that for.
I know, but I'm not going to strip it, because like it's hard to explain, but like we just went to our grandparents, and this is different because it's our grandparents. But like, she's probably not going to wash the sheets, because we just kind of slept on top of the comforter because it was stupid hot. So like, I know she's probably not going to go through the effort of rewashing clean sheets. So if I would have stripped the bed in that example, it's like, oh, now I have to wash this stuff.
So what we're saying is, for the sake of appearances as a guest, it's literally a case of the least I could do.
Yes.
What we're saying is, I'm going to make more work for you by making the bed look nice, so that if you don't wash it immediately, at least you're not looking at unkept sheets.
Right.
Yeah.
So the least I could do, because the least you could do is like a singular task. Otherwise you could do nothing and just walk out exactly how you left everything.
Yeah, that's not the least you could. Yeah.
So the least you could do is like, I'm going to pull the comforter and sheet back up and set the pillows back on it.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to reset a crime scene. Like this looks normal again in here, right? So like there's still now cups and dishes in the sink. There's dirty towels in the bathroom. You know,
Right.
I didn't leave the popcorn on the floor of the living room when we watched a movie. I picked up those kernels.
Yeah, but the bowl's still in the sink.
But
The bowl's still in the sink. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's no hard and fast rule. I'm glad I asked about that one. I have one more,
Yeah.
and I have an opinion on this, but I don't know what the rule is. So let's say you're at work, different size offices for everybody. Somebody brings in a bunch of donuts, and let's say that your work is, it could be anything, but I'm going to use donuts. Let's say your work is as staffed up as possible. So there are as many people as could be there as there would normally be. This isn't just like you and one other person. So it's as staffed up as possible. Somebody to bring boxes of donuts, and you have that person that's like, hey, if we cut the donuts, we can all try more types of donuts. And like, I'm going to cut this one in half and leave the other half for somebody who might want to try this kind of donut. And then later I'm going to come back for a different half of a different donut. So there's all these kind of foods that are built to be individually served. This isn't like Kevin from The Office bringing in a pot of chili. This is like foods that are meant to be individually consumed because that's how normal humans bring food to an office.
Right.
And then somebody decides that they want to take individual portions and further cut them down to like spread out variety. You know what I mean? So what's the rule? Is that like frowned upon across the board? Do you think that that's normal? I'll save my opinion. Either way, but
This just happened, so I have to chime in.
Please.
On vacation, somebody went to a specialty donut shop, the kinds that have like maple bacon, and then other one was like lemon blueberry, and the other ones are like they're rare types of donuts. It's not glazed and long johns or filled sticks, right?
yeah.
Right.
If the person comes back with only one maple bacon one, my mind says, if we're trying to all try these specialty donuts, the red velvet cake one, I'm getting so hungry for donuts, then yeah, let's cut them up so everybody can get a taste, because it's about the uniqueness of the flavors, not I want to get filled up on a donut. The way to solve for this is place your order before I go. If you want a maple bacon, you better order a maple bacon donut. That way, when they get here, that's my maple bacon donut. But if we're all just doing it like potluck style and it's about the experience of trying it together, then we should probably cut them up to see who wants what.
But that's your family, though, right?
Yeah. Again, I know
That's different.
Dylan's saying workplace. So,
Yeah.
but
And I
my
said
answer to his question would be like, is there one maple bacon in that box that somebody brought into work? Then if I'm the first one there, I'm going to cut that one at least in half, maybe even in fourths, because I want somebody else to be able to try the one maple bacon donut.
Okay. Counterpoint to that. You were the first, and this is a legitimate question. Let's say that happens in an office, not with family, different with family. I specifically said office. So it's an office. Somebody brings them in. Look, because you know why? You know why I just said that? Because there are rules and we're finding out what the line is. Okay.
Right.
So this is an office. You're the first person in. You see a maple bacon. Let's say you get wet and wild and you cut it in quarters. Okay. A little crazy for me, but fine. You cut it in fourths. You leave the room. Nobody has seen you go in or out of the room. Now you've got other people walking in a building with however many people going, I kind of want that one, but it would also be helpful to know who the person was that made the decision, because now you're got to factor in this whole, like, what if it's the guy that's super gross 2 desks over that was the one that got in there early and he's the one that cut it? Did he use his hands to rip it, or does it look like there's knife marks? Because
Yeah.
that could greatly affect. And now you don't know, because you're in a workplace. You don't know who was in there and cutting up what and sneezing
Right.
on what.
Well, here's what else is if you were the first person there and you're the one who cut it into quarters, you've just made that decision for everybody behind you
Right.
because now there's a new etiquette on top of the etiquette, which is if somebody before you has cut that into fourths and you were to come up and you were to say, and you would have been one to just take the whole thing because it was there when you got there. You can't now because somebody cut it into fourths and now you look like a jerk if you take the 3 remaining pieces.
It depends. If you're the second person in and all I'm seeing is a 3/4 bacon maple, I could just take that whole one and end it. I could end the whole thing because if it's the first donut that's been cut, I could be like, I'm just eating this whole one.
Yeah. Okay.
You could end it.
See,
So do you think,
Good.
so
I
do you
wonder
for
if
work
anybody
ones?
I wonder if anybody who's made it this long is going, yes, they're finally talking about things that matter. Or for the love of God, it was over 15 minutes ago. Be
They
okay
already-
with shorter episodes.
They already
I
turned
love
off the
this stuff.
episode.
I do too. And we're the ones talking. So,
Do you know what this is? We've talked about in stand-up comedy where you keep drilling. You start a story very, very broad, and you keep taking the story more and more narrow. And as the story drills down and is more narrow in who it appeals to, the amount of laughter drops off, but the remaining laughter gets louder because it becomes more and more relatable. We're doing that. This is us just drilling down. So 95% of our listeners turned it off, but the ones that are still here are here for it, is what I'm saying.
I love it.
They're enjoying it.
Yeah. Great question. Great question.
That is that could be my favorite question is that one because I've never thought of it before, but as it turns out, I have strong opinions.
Okay.
If you're borrowing your neighbor's mower and you need to pass through his yard with that mower, do you just turn the deck on and mow 1 strip for him, maybe 2?
No.
No.
That sounds like the kind of thing that someone who
Kind of psycho.
cuts a donut into quarters in the office space just in case someone else wants to try this one.
It's 2 less strips he has to mow.
But it doesn't match. So my opinion has become clear. I think in an office that you can't do that. You don't know who's been making what decisions for the collective group. I don't think you can do it. The only way I think that works, and I specifically said office at like max or normal capacity, because if you're the person that you work with like one other person and you're like friends, you can get away with that. If you're doing this with your family, you can get away with that. But if that happened at my work and it's at normal capacity, there's 200 other people that are going to be walking over to the kitchen eating donuts. Like you just can't just grab it, make a decision, grab a donut and eat that donut. And it's the end.
The bringer of the donuts cuts all of them in halves, puts toothpicks in them with little labels about what each flavor is. They set the precedent that this is a taste testing fun experience for the office. If they leave the box with full donuts in there, it's the Wild West, baby, to use Dylan's words from last week. Y'all do what you want.
You know
There you
what?
go.
And that I'm going to say, if somebody went to that length to set up that kind of experience, because then that turns into a really quick Slack message or email. Hey, y'all, brought a bunch of donuts. There's special flavors. I already cut them all in half with toothpicks. Go try out and sample some. Then that clearly to me is like, you've already thought through everything. You've pre-cut them ahead of time so we don't have grimy fingers touching up donuts. That's fine. You've thought through the variables for me.
Right. And one would argue at that point that like they have delivered a different thing.
Yep. Yeah, totally fine. So I think if somebody wants to go that far, they've just set it's no longer an unspoken rule though. It's I very clearly set up, here's what we're doing with these donuts. Anyways, I'm done.
Yeah.
That's my whole opinion.
I want to revisit another old one because again, I feel strongly about it, and I feel like in my personal community, it's going to pop up more because the whole talk of Gahanna right now is everybody's excited about the Burger King remodel, and Burger King is going to have a double drive-through situation like McDonald's has been doing, and I just want to put that out there for everybody that in the double drive-through situation, you've got two cars that are both simultaneously ordering food. And the person who gets to the consolidated line after ordering, the next person in that line is whoever finishes first. It does not have to be every other. It often works out that way that it's every other car. But the rule is whoever finishes ordering first is the next person in line. That's the rule. That's what they're expecting from you. That's all. That's all I'm saying. The people in my town can't figure this out.
I think that's Burger King.
It annoys me.
I think that's Burger King putting the cart before the horse on that one. That's a little bit of chicken envy. Do you really think that Burger King needs double drive-thrus like Chick-fil-A or, I mean, McDonald's is even still McDonald's. Like, it's questionable whether they need to, but at least I kind of get it. It's like, you're still McDonald's.
Sure.
I don't know, man. I don't think any Burger King is going to be that swamp that they need to drive-thrus, but more power to everyone in Gehenna figuring out the etiquette on that one.
Yeah. Anyway,
that was a fun one. We'll have to reference our pet peeves episodes because those are some of our greatest hits. If you're just now joining us, the pet peeves. I mean, just now joining us in terms of the last couple episodes, I would go back and listen to those. Those were bangers. Oh man,
you might need a little mid bit too, Kendall. If you hit up that new double drive-through at BK, ask him through the drive-through what the etiquette is, and see if they'll give you an answer. And
how does this thing work?
How does this thing work?
Hey, let me ask you something, BK guy. If you
hypothetically speaking, let's say you had two customers at the same time.
Just ask them, see what they say. If you need to pull in a manager to weigh in, that's fine. We get it. Like, I'll wait.
Whoever's first, whoever's done ordering or whatever.
And then I'll be like, thank you.
Thank God.
Right, because if one is one guy in his vehicle and one is a 9-passenger van with a soccer team in there and everybody's ordered, then that's clearly
it might take them 3 minutes to order, in which case the other line could shoot 3 cars through in that time. So be it. Mm-hmm. That's the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
Okay, well, I want to make 2 more recommendations I forgot to talk about last time. Since we're doing all this overthinking, I'd like to recommend a really good book called Soundtracks by John Acuff. It's the surprising solution to overthinking. And it's really great. I was reading it on vacation. Some of my family picked it up and read through the first couple chapters, and they're like, holy crap, this changes everything. Really good. Sort of the premise is we all have these awkward junior high moments that happen to us and shape us. And those things are sort of on repeat in our minds as quiet little voices of that one time when you tried to enter a room and say this thing and it didn't go well. And then from then on out, every time you enter a room of people you don't know, that moment is still playing on repeat. And you sort of subscribe to that. And how to break those broken soundtracks and then replace them with more healthy and constructive tunes. So it's really good. I highly recommend it. It's much deeper than just like, hey, think positive thoughts. They actually did like psychological, 10,000 people were surveyed and 98% of them said they were overthinkers, and the tricks that they use to get through it and how the brain works and chemistry. It's fascinating stuff. So anyway, and then a show I watched, I mentioned that I had been using someone's HBO login credentials, and I watched Chernobyl finally, and I binge watched that. It's 5 episodes. Oh my gosh. If you're at all into history, it's so artfully done. The acting is top notch. I'm blanking on the English actors right now. But it's really, really well done. Spooky. It's not a horror film, or it's not, it's of the event of Chernobyl, but just it's very eerie when these people didn't know what was happening and they're just outside watching it while all of those chemicals are carried through the air, and there's children playing in the flakes of stuff that are coming from the site, and it's just like, oh, you're watching with the benefit of hindsight.
A quick thing to chime in there to help you out. There are 3 people, actors that are in all 5 episodes. Jesse Buckley, Jared Harris, and Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Appear in all 5 episodes. So those I would consider main cast.
Yeah. What else was he from? I'm going through it now too. Anyway,
Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah.
He was in Good Will Hunting, Mamma Mia. I think he was in Thor.
And Jared Harris was one of the leads. Anyway, highly recommend it. Only 5 episodes. And then I think I'm going to watch The Wire. It's on there. People have said it's one of the greatest television series of all time, next to The Sopranos, which I watched through a few years ago. So I think I'm gonna take on The Wire and start watching through that. I'll keep you guys updated.
Right on.
Sweet.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Hey, recommendation that I have is to make your facial hair smell good. And to do that, there's a place online called artiusman.com. ARTIUSMAN.com. Go there and you fill your card up with like candles that smell nice and beard oils that smell nice and are functional, shampoos and soaps and hats and stuff too. Fill your card up when you go to checkout. You can put a discount code in there, the middle, type in the middle, and you're going to save 25% off your first order, which is a very generous offer.
Ching.
Combs and brushes, scrolling through some stuff. If you're watching on the YouTube here, you can see it, but they've got everything. If you're a man and you need to groom yourself, and we all do, Artius Man has fantastic products that are not cheaply made. He's using actual fragrances, actual oils and things, not the cheap fragrances that everyone else is doing. So he's putting these things together by hand and making them, and he's a good guy. Jeff Piles, we did a podcast with him and an episode with him. You can go back and find that. Anyway, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for taking us this far. Buy some Mints products. Put the middle in there. We'd appreciate that. Buy some stickers. We have stickers, I think, for sale still, right? So we'll drop something somewhere in social media. You can go back through our social media and figure out how to buy one of those things. And
that's a wrap.
That's it.
See you next week.
Fiend!